What's going on, YouTube? Last Musketeer here, excited to bring you the very first episode of the Arknights free-to-play Is It Worth It series. So I'm always open to suggestions for new games to try out, and since I'd ended the Diablo series, I decided to try this one because this was one of the first ones that was actually suggested to me, and I was actually excited to see it because I had played this game before, probably about 2 years ago, and I ended up losing my account and I could never recover it, so I decided might as well move on to do something else, and it just ended up not ever completely giving it a chance. So we're going to go ahead and get this one started, and I'm really only going to edit this down to key points and really just focus on kind of giving an overview of what I'm looking at and what I think about on day one. Now, it's not often that I get to play a tower defense style gacha game. I normally never see them, and most of the time when you're looking at, if you're looking at the high ranking apps in any type of gacha system, usually you don't find any tower defense, but I love tower defense style games to a certain degree, I would say, but this is one I was very excited to get back into, and I'm just going to go through this first day, kind of give you an idea of what it looks like. You've got different units. You've got your tank units, your snipers, your vanguards, your casters. Over time, you'll see more and more units, and I'll kind of go through and explain as I figure out everything that they're capable of doing, what is best for what situation. But one thing I am definitely excited about, if there are people that do enjoy this game and are potentially high-level players in it, as I'm placing these units out, I'm probably going to be doing a horrible job of placing them, and so the idea of making people uncomfortable with that is actually kind of funny. So do bear in mind, as I play more and more, I'll get better at it. Whatever comments you have for me, you want to give me tips, that's fine. Because it is blind playthrough, I am not doing walkthroughs, I'm not doing guides. I'm just going based on what I see and what I try to figure out on my own. Adds to the whole experience of the game, and it's even cooler in the sense that since it is a strategy-based game, I am going to have to really test myself and see just how far I can get in the time allotted to me. So, for anyone who doesn't know, in this series, I do it, it's roughly 29-30 days. Sometimes I get more than an hour a day to play, but most of the time it's a minimum of 1 hour. So some days as I go through the 7-day format, you may see a bit of elevated progress where it seems like I made a good improvement, and then other days it may seem a little more stagnant. It just depends on how much time I'm able to do, and also because since this does come down to strategy, if I'm not having a very good day in planning or coming up with a new strategy that may beat me the level, you may see me be a little more stagnant, and I'll talk about that as time goes on. But I figure for the most part the idea of the series is that it's a raw playthrough, and the average player probably gets 1 to 2 hours per day outside of work to actually play the game. And also, I do work a full-time job, so I'm generally 8 hours, and then I come home and try to do this and my other 2 series that I have going on at the same time. So essentially I'm working, you know, around 11-12 hours a day to get this done. So obviously I had to manage my time well, be smart with how I do things. And we get our free medic. So the biggest problem with this, guys, is while you're playing this game, the strategy is one thing, having the units, the level of unit you need, having their skills up, but it's more so that if you put something in one spot and may have to change where it is, and you're halfway through a level, you're going to put yourself in a big detriment. So every bit of this has to be very properly planned, and it's cool. They do have a way of going in before the mission and kind of doing a practice run. So instead of wasting the sanity, which is the energy in this game, you can kind of plan out beforehand what you're doing. But as I'm going through, I was able to check the mail, and I got a decent amount of rewards from hitting the milestone, I think, for the community thing. I'm not sure what the event is, but it's got some nice rewards. You get some extra energy, some high-level XP cards. It's always exciting to see what you get straight off the bat in a game from the mill, because some games are really generous, others not so much, but if I remember correctly, this one is actually pretty generous, and I'm going to be trying to go through these missions as much as possible, not just the regular missions. I've got to try to complete my daily, weeklies, but also these early on, getting started the game missions. Now, looking in the headhunt, it's been a while, and I don't really remember anything about the units whatsoever. This one, I assume, is new. I don't think I've seen him before. Obviously, it's been a long time since I played, but it seems to be that they always, no matter what, at least from when I was playing last, there's always this headhunt event early on for probably for new players, I would imagine, that gives you a guaranteed 6-star in the first 10 summons. So it's usually fairly easy to get your first 10 pull, and then you can start out with a hero. I don't know how good the starting heroes are. Hopefully, you know, going forward, I pull something that's actually going to be useful towards at least mid-game, and, you know, maybe they're a little more reasonable with their starting units than some other gacha games. A lot of times they'll trick you into thinking you've got some really good pull, or they'll give you maybe some top-up reward early on for the light spenders, where you'll get a high rank card, but it ends up being like one of the worst ones in that actual bunch. So I'm hoping that the starting ones actually have, you know, some type of value going forward. So as I was checking the shop, I was looking at the Arknight packs, and Arknight being the main shop currency, your main spender currency that you can earn through the game, but also it's your main thing that you buy for packs, and you can trade it for stuff for headhunting and for other pieces of gear, I'm sure. But it's very strange in this case, because most of the time you'll get them at values of minimum like 100 or so. This one was $1 for one, which first time pack you get an extra 2, but in that sense it was a little strange seeing. I'm gonna have to kind of figure out just how lenient they are with that, if you're gonna need a lot for certain things, or if a lot of things come off really cheap. So that's something I check over time, and maybe by this next week I'll be able to formulate an opinion. This is just the day one, so it'll start the week as time goes on. When part 2 comes out, hopefully I'll have more of an understanding. The missions so far, what I'm looking at is not hard, and which is good, and I can't stress enough to people that when it comes down to games, if you're enjoying a game a lot and it feels like you have to log on and you got to do a whole bunch of stuff for your daily missions, it's very annoying, especially if it's out of the way. But I'm always happy with games that tend to put more of a focus on letting you do it naturally. So you're doing your natural stuff and you end up getting all 10 instead of doing something that you necessarily wouldn't want to do. But I'm doing my first 10 pull. I had enough to get it. It's a guarantee that you pull a high rank unit. So as we're going through, I get my first supporter named Earth Spirit, and I hadn't really dabbled, I don't think, with support units too much back in the day either. I don't remember, like I said, I remember a couple things about the game. I remember the gameplay itself. I remember a couple units. I think a guy named Thorn is one I used to have. I think that was his name, and he was like some insanely strong unit. It'd be cool to get something like that again. My luck in Epic 7, one of my other series, has been insane, so I can't expect that I'll get something too great in this game. Having luck in multiple games at the same time is extremely rare, so especially for me. But here is my first high-level unit, and I get Shining. And as much as I love to have some type of damage unit, a medic is probably, honestly, the best option, because anybody I can use that is going to a big boost to my actual survivability is huge. The medics they offer you, like Hibiscus, through the game, seem to be decent, but obviously star and rank matters. So I'm taking Shining up to 30 right away. I could go higher, but I don't think it's actually necessary at this point. My main focus is get her high enough that I can keep units alive, but mainly focus as much experience as I can to some of my higher damage dealing units or my tanks, for instance, because as time goes on, especially in this first week, I'm going to make a lot of improvement, but further on down the line, more than likely I'll slow down because not only the strategy aspect, but the aspect of having strong enough units or having enough survivability overall to do the damage. So I'm skipping ahead here. I'm almost on the last level of the first, I don't know if I should call them episodes or chapters or what, but I'm at 011, which I believe is the last stage of this actual chapter. So it's now allowing me to do the side missions, the side story stuff where I can earn XP and various other items. So I'm trying them out. They seem fairly easy so far, but I don't expect anything to involve a lot of strategy right now. It's more so saving my units for particular moments and picking the right setup. So far, I think the game does a really good job of kind of showing you early on which units you are supposed to be most worried of, or how to deal with large groups, how to save your deployment cost, because you'll see a thing that says C and it's in a diamond shape that has 17 is going up as I get kills. Now, certain aspects it'll go up by its own, but in this case I have to kill units to get some. So if I use too much deployment cost energy early on by using maybe a tank hero instead of like a vanguard who costs a lot less to use and can actually block up to a certain amount of units, and that's something you got to pay attention to, because your defense units can only hold so many enemies back the whole time. So if they get to the point where, say, 3 enemies are on them at the same time, you didn't do enough damage to get them to stop them before then, those 3 units will build up on the unit you have and the rest will walk past. So there's not just the killing everything in time aspect, there's also the making sure that things can't slip through because you do not have the right setup. So vanguards are useful for putting out really cheap units and being able to save up more so you can put out that big tank or that big damage dealer in the time you need. I'm sure as time goes on there'll be one where I'm extremely stretched thin, and proper planning is the only way I'm going to be able to beat it, regardless of what characters I have. Now that we beat 011, we actually get to check out the base. Now, the base is going to be very important because going forward, you plant units into a room, they build units, they offer you supplies like XP, they give you currency items. This is all stuff that you're going to need over time, and especially for a free-to-play player, it's going to help me tremendously. I don't have a good base understanding of it yet, I'm just going off what I have seen through the tutorials. So basically you'll put a unit in there, they'll work. Some units are better for that specific section than others. So once that worker tires out, you swap them out, let that one rest a while, and I think that goes more into the dorm where the units will recover their energy. I could be wrong, it may be a certain part of the control center, but going into the shop, it is always one of the most important aspects, especially on day one, for me to figure out, kind of look around at cost, figure out how long it takes to get something, so I can kind of plan going forward where to save, where to spend, and get a good idea of just how much I can get, probably per month from units. If I should go more towards headhunting, if there's a case where a certain unit is going to be in the shop that I can purchase for the originium that I've saved up, then that may be the better option. Getting a guarantee can always be better than having to gamble for it. Now, you could be lucky, you could be I could be lucky here, but I'm not gonna bet on that. And I was looking through and I bought the headhunting permit on the distinctions page, which was a horrible idea. I didn't even pay attention to the fact that there was phases. So generally what you should do is save up, try to save up enough where you can go for the phase 4, phase 5, because phase 4 and phase 5 give you 10 and 20 pulls respectively. So being able to save up and making sure you can clear every phase is more important than going and buying one at a time. I also noticed that they offer high rarity heroes for a price of 180, so actually, in all terms, if you can find a hero that you're specifically wanting or maybe needing for your squad, it's probably going to be worth more to go for that over the headhunting. But anyway, guys, I'm trying not to drag this video out, so not sure when this video will go up. I'm trying to get it out Saturday, but it may be a little later, maybe around midnight. So every episode will be Saturday after that, but I'll see you in the next one, guys. Peace.